But coming your way from 360 kilometers from Nairobi, this is Homabay County. And will be the focus of attention for the rest of the week as we mark the Devolution Conference 2025, the 9th edition of the conference and the second biennial edition of this conference. We are privileged this morning to talk to Mary Muiti, the CEO of Council of Governors, the main organizers of this event, and Drusilla Gidiglo-Villas, who's in charge of business development and strategy at Jospong, part of the partners to the COG, who are in charge of actually ensuring that this works. And today we're simply looking forward to the Devolution Conference and checking out what exactly are we looking forward to, what kind of discussions we'll be having this time around, and basically what will be the takeout at the end of this conference. It's a bit warmer in comparison to Nairobi. It is actually 20 degrees in Homabay, feels like 24. A bit of cloud cover here, a lot of traffic, you believe it or not. But today, most of the county governments and officials will be descending to this town today. I can tell you, in as far as accommodation is concerned, if you've not made your booking already, you better do it now, because a few hours from now, you will not be able to get accommodation here. Everyone is coming to Homabay County. But why? And this is what we need to find out. Mary Muiti, good morning. Karibu sana.
Good morning, Fred.
And just an overview. What are we looking forward to this week?
Okay, thank you very much. My name is Muiti Mary. I lead the team at the Council of Governors. And first, may I start by greeting all Kenyans from Homabay, the county of endless potential. And we're looking forward to hosting all of you for this 9th edition of the Devolution Conference. Fred, I want to say that this year's conference is bigger and better than all the other 8 conferences that we've held, because we've taken stock of what has been, and of course in our endeavor to ensure that we improve on processes and procedures. This 9th Devolution Conference and the second biannual conference is a conference like none other. Why do we have devolution conferences in this country? We all know that in the advent of devolution 13 years ago, and I tend to believe large and by, and as a believer of devolution, one of the best things that the Constitution of Kenya gave us is a chapter on devolution. That is devolving power and resources to the people and ensuring that people are the core center in decision making and of course in terms of progress. That's why as the Council of Governors and the devolution family, we thought that every year, and now after 2 years, that there has to be discussions around our progress, around what you're doing, and of course reviewing processes and procedures from a lens of the people that we actually do for, the people that we serve. And that's why devolution conferences are usually mounted to generate conversations around a topic. And this year's topic is extremely very good and well crafted for reasons that all of us know. For people for prosperity, devolution as a catalyst for equity, inclusion, and social justice. We're all aware of what this country has been going through in terms of clamor for inclusion and voices for the masses. And we thought as a devolution family, then we are actually the best suited entities to ensure that we start conversations around exercising high levels of equity, ensuring that there's inclusion across, and ensuring that there is a social justice across. And that's why we decided just to have and raise voices and ensure inclusivity, that this is why we came up with this. What is it that we expect out of this? We expect very rich conversations. And because this time and age, Fred, you will notice that Devolution Conference is about the people, not us. The policy makers will have to sit down and listen to the people. The side events are not mounted by government or neither mounted by the highest levels of this leadership in this country, but it's partner-led. People express interest to actually have discussions and discourses around this. So what that means is the discussions that you're going to have and the resolutions that you're going to implement for the next 2 years are resolutions that have been generated by the people and for the people by themselves.
Right. And indeed, we are in a very natural setting. So yes, everyone is attending the Devolution Conference, including the wildlife. So you'll see some insects flying around. Not to worry, though. And talking of partners, and we'll come back to talk about the mechanics of the conference and how it will be conducted. One of the partners is here, Drusilla Villas, who's in charge of business development and strategy at Jospong. And and I was just looking at your resume, and you have over 20 years of experience. And I'm just trying, and you're all the way from Ghana.
I am.
And I'm trying to understand how your expertise and experience is weaving into the devolution journey. in Kenya, and how are you coming to this conversation?
Yeah, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much for having me. I'm representing my group, Just One Group of Companies. And so we are the private sector. We're a multinational company. What we do predominantly is waste management and waste treatment, and we are most honored that we've been invited. I think we're one of the few foreign companies, multinational companies, have been invited into this conference. When you talk about devolution, it means decentralization, and it's something that has been done in Ghana through waste management. And I like the theme because our mission is improving the lives of people. That's the mission of the executive chairman of the Just One Group. So it resonates with what we do as a group. And our partnership with the government is to bring in the private sector perspective of waste management and waste solutions. We've tried it, it's tried and tested in Ghana, in Nigeria, in many countries. So we're here in Kenya now to make sure that Kenya actually actualizes all the policies in terms of waste management and any other sector that we can find ourselves in.
How has been your experience so far in the Kenyan context?
Oh, fantastic. Your people are warm. First of all, let me say Homabay is so beautiful, breathtaking. I want to stay here, but of course I have to go back to my country. But I'll say that they've been very receptive. And I think that the leadership, when you have a top leadership who understands the essence of waste management, it makes it easy. We applaud the fact that you started the zero single plastic use in Kenya. It shows that the government and the top officials understand the need for waste management and sustainability. I beg your pardon, yeah. So it's made it easy for us. We've been able to have some interactions, good interactions with Mombasa, with Kiamu, with I tried to mention the Kenyan the counties, but yeah. But so far we had 20 of the governors come to Ghana. They've had the experience of what we're doing in Ghana and other West African countries. They're excited about it. We have 4 counties already on board and 2 already going into the advanced stage of the partnership agreement. So we're excited. Right. We're excited about it.
And Maureen, this is one of the conversations that we rarely have, even as a country. Matters to do with the environment. It is one of the devolved functions. Yet counties rarely talk about this more. We talk about health and matters to do with, I think, markets and trade. But when it comes to environment, this is a least talked about issue. Are you saying that this will be top of the agenda for this conference?
Thank you very much. And of course, I want to welcome the Just One Group of companies. We've had a lot of engagement with them, and whatever that they're doing and the solutions that they're offering in terms of waste management is actually breathtaking. If you were to bring Just One company into Kenya, I tend to believe this country would be a better country. In terms of waste management, it is actually at the core and center of each and every government, county government. But of course, 13 years into doing devolution, there's a lot that still needs to be done. And for that reason, the reason as why we went out to seek solutions on how to better manage our waste is for the sole reason that we recognize that waste management is extremely very critical. And the conversations are live. We have a lot of progress and transformation that has been done actually in the waste sector, but it's rarely spoken about. And that's why we thought this time around we need to engage this partner to be able to pop out the interest and of course the waste management in the aspect of economic viability, because they do it for economic viability. And looking at where we are, our theme for this year, it's about actually the inequalities are coming in terms of unemployment, in terms of climate-led vulnerabilities and the like. And this is what this innovation from Ghana has actually sought to address. And for that reason, we are taking this very seriously, and to see how we can be able to economically manage our waste and of course create a lot of employment, both direct and indirect employment, just as they did. I think True will be telling us the numbers that they are looking out for. They have more than 200,000 direct and indirect employment. Yes. And for that reason, if we talk about inequalities and inclusion, then I tend to believe this topic is live, and we want to take our center stage in ensuring that issues of waste management takes critical center as we advance now devolution in the next cycle of activities.
All right. And the biggest problem has been resource allocation, because counties are grappling with slow disbursement from the national government. They do not have money for health, and of course they'll prioritize health. Discussions around environment probably will take the back seat, and probably this is where the private-public partnerships come in. kindly paint a picture of how this is working from a private partnership point of view.
So I'll tell you how we worked in Ghana and how we're translating it in other countries. Let me first of all tell you about waste management when it comes to inclusion and diversification, and also in terms of decentralization. Waste, everybody generates waste, from baby to old persons. And so it means that waste is cut across every sector, every age, every demographics. So when you want to find a solution, you have to include the community-led solutions, and that's what we bring on board. But we also agree with what Mary is saying, is an economic venture. When people start seeing it as a resource, not waste, and you can generate so much from it, right from the organic waste going into compost, which is what the technology that we're bringing. We transform the plastic into pelletization, which is reintroduced. So what you call this is actually not environment, it's circular economy or sustainability. That is what it's called right now. We know that Kenya is part of the Paris Agreement. There's a ratification, so we know that you're strong when it comes to the Paris Agreement. So that is that side of it. The ESG benefits that you get out of it. The employment is numerous. You have about close to, I think, about 56 million people in Kenya. And if you look at how many waste is generated versus how much resource can be derived out of it, it's fantastic. When we come in, what we do is we help to, we say pre-finance. What we mean is we come to the country, we look for capital, we set up as a private sector, and then we discuss with the government on how the payment is done. So we make it easy for government, so there's no sovereign guarantee that you need to put in because of how we come in as private sector. So it makes it easy. And I'll say that most countries, unfortunately, like what you're saying, they do not have a budget, dedicated budget for waste, not just waste management, for waste treatment. What you see is they have waste management, which means it's collected and dumped into the landfill. What we are bringing is the processing, which is the circular economy. So you pick it up and then you process the waste before you take the residual waste to the landfill. And so we bring in that technology, we bring in the capital, we bring in the capex, we set it up, we operate, we manage, and then you help us to in the financing aspect. Right. So that's what we're bringing in.
The challenge comes in when different county governments operate differently, and the issue of standardization when it comes to matters environment, so that other counties probably are mainstreaming waste management, others are a bit slower. How do you manage that?
Thank you very much. I want to confirm that we have actually gone out in terms of documenting the best practices in each and every sector, and I want to confirm in the waste management we have very good stories about it, and we keep on cascading them to other counties so that they can replicate with a lot of ease. In terms of waste management, one of the things that we learned from Jospong is, as much as we generate a lot of waste, in terms of converting this into resource and economic gain, there has to be a form of collaboration for the counties, smaller counties that are not generating a lot of waste. And in our conversation thereafter, after the visit from Ghana, we already have counties and matched them on how they can be able to collaborate so that they can generate enough materials for these factory processing and the like. But what is it that the counties have done this far in terms of waste management? There's not a single county that has not engaged and bought trucks for purposes of collection of garbage in the counties. And of course, if you look at even segregation, many counties are doing segregation in their own manner, and most of them actually, maybe 60% have already segregated for purposes of ease of sorting out and the like. So there are counties that are doing small things, but what we're looking out for generally in terms of waste management, you can't speak about health issues without the issues of waste management and managing waste. You can't speak about public health without doing this. As you rightly put it, we have a lot of waste that is being generated from the markets, from the hospitals, from wherever aspect that we go out to. But we're looking it out in terms of making economic gain out of it. And that's why the counties have already enacted natural resources and waste management acts and policies to direct this. So a case in Mombasa, I want to confirm that the engagement with Jospong has brought out a lot of issues in terms of even enacting laws that are enablers in terms of bringing in the private sector to cooperate in this sector. I want to confirm that there is no county that will be able to adequately manage waste without bringing in the private sector. Okay. And that's why Jospong plays a critical role in ensuring that they set stage for that private sector engagement.
And you talk about the necessity for legislation.
Yeah.
And different counties may have different speeds in how they enact these laws. And probably, in as far as examples are concerned, do you have a county that you can actually say they fast-track legislation and probably they are way ahead of others?
Okay, what there is and what we do as the Council of Governors is we synchronize all these, and we developed a model law in waste management that we cascaded to all the county governments. So as we speak right now, all 47 counties have waste management legislation that guides on how they do management and the like, the enforcement and the like. So all the 47 counties have an enabling law that they can go ahead and start engaging the private sector.
What has been the biggest challenge in your experience and interaction with counties? Probably slow uptake of this conversation or something like that.
That's a good question. I wouldn't call it a challenge. I think it's the process. First of all, having the right mindset when it comes to the leadership, being able to drive it as quickly as possible. But luckily we've had, as I said, like Mombasa County, they've been very proactive in terms of their processes. So having the rest of the counties on board, because what we're given is a holistic perspective for the value chain for waste management. Right from collection, being able to strengthen collection of waste from every household, every industry, into bringing it to a consolidated area where it can be treated. So it's a process, it's a value chain. And like Mary said, the economic benefit is the fact that for every value chain, you're creating jobs for the counties. And it's very, very important, because you're not just creating jobs, but you're creating businesses, auxiliary businesses that can employ other people as well. So that, I would say, is what we've been able to sell to the counties and to the governors, and they've been very receptive. So I wouldn't say we have some challenge. They've been quite good.
Right.
Yeah.
So I'm told that this venue, for the next a few days or so, is going to be managing waste in a different way. Now, as we talk about the mechanics of the conference, how exactly are we going to be handling waste for the duration of this conference?
Okay, thank you very much.
That's a good one.
And one of the things that we realized has to be managed effectively is actually waste. And we went out again in the spirit of partnership. We looked out for a partner that can help us manage this waste in terms of even the dustbins, the segregation, and the collection. And we got a Pro that is generating and providing all the garbage bins that are required. And we've engaged with the county government to provide the facilitative processes in terms of the vehicles. And we have actually set in a motion on how this will be done. Like when we are coming in, there are trucks that were collecting garbage already from this center, and they have their landfills where they dump these waste. So in terms of that, we've already engaged the private sector that is helping us. We have the environment officers that will be manning all the centers that we put the dustbins, and for purposes of ensuring that when the vehicles are coming, and we've actually sequenced them, what do you call a program. We've set in a program. After every 2 hours, there are 2 trucks that are coming in, and we have environment officers that will be managing this. So in terms of the conference, and by the way, the other thing that we need to understand is that this conference is plastic free. We are providing water in bottles, and we have staged water points. They are called water points, where delegates will be drawing water from, and we are providing bottles. So there will be no
glass
plastic.
Bottles?
Yes.
Or glass bottles?
The bottles, the water bottles.
Aluminum.
So each person will be able to get their bottles, and throughout the 4 days, they will be refilling water from the water points, the dispensers that we provided. And we've provided enough water dispensers for each and every person. So in terms of even managing plastics, we have no plastic in this conference. So it's plastic free. It's an environment that we are promoting, of course, climate change. And for that reason, we thought, as advocates of climate change and, of course, good governance in terms of waste management, we start from ourselves. So there'll be no bottles, there'll be no water bottles that will be circulated, but you will have your bottle that will draw water from the
So no
dispensers.
plastic bottles
No
at
plastic
all.
bottles at all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
That's
No
a good
plastic
one.
bottles in this venue for the entire duration of the Devolution conference. But yes, we've talked about the government, county governments and county leadership. But the community is also key in this.
Yeah,
And
very
what
much.
are we doing as far as ensuring that the community is on board in this, as far as communication is concerned on waste management?
Yeah, okay. So thank you, Fred. Like I said, when it comes to waste management, is at all levels. You have the informal sector those that are not in the mainstream lines of economic gain or employment or environment or sustainability, or when you're talking about policies. But they are the key people, because when it comes to culture of management, waste management and waste processing, they are the ones that you need, right from the collection of the plastic. Even though there's a zero plastic single use, you still have certain plastic coming in, like HDP, PPs, and those are processed. So we need a community-led level in terms of the collection, in terms of creation of buyback centers, where you can actually consolidate all these seemingly waste into resources and then transforming them into resources again. You need the royalties, for instance. You need the community opinion leaders to be able to educate public address systems, to be able to go around to sensitize people on the need for circular economy mindset. So they are key. In fact, they are the most important people. We can sit at the top and make decisions, but you need the people at the ground to make sure that's actually being implemented. So that is the kind of approach we use. And incidentally, we do that on the district level. That's what we call it in Ghana. And we started in Lagos as well. It's the same thing. You have those who are doing the collection of the waste, the waste collection associations that you need to interact with. We are not here to compete in terms of business. We're here to collaborate with them. Bring your waste, we'll process it, and then we make sure that the landfills don't get us full very quickly. So that is how we're working when it comes to their community
Is that the kind of feel we'll get here? Because you said earlier that we are looking at listening to the voice of the people, not just the leadership. During this conference, will we get to hear from the communities that are engaging in some of these programs?
Precisely. This is why we said that we want to hear the voices of the masses, and they will be telling us what is it that they expect from their leadership in terms of waste management. But before I jump into that question, I want to confirm that, Fred, there's a lot that needs to be done in this country in terms of mindset in as far as waste management is concerned. So the governments have a lot of daunting tasks ahead of them in terms of changing the mindset, advocacy, and ensuring that there's a discipline in handling of a waste. This cannot be led by government, but by individual citizens in this country. If you go to developed countries, rarely would you get people even mixing waste into actually the bins. They obey rules and the like. So this is the first steps that we'd want actually to start with, the advocacy. And I want to confirm that Mombasa County has actually gone ahead in that. When they were doing the enacting the law that enables the partnership, the private partnership, there was a lot, I attended one, and the public had a lot of questions about how is it that you're going to involve the public, how do we ensure that there's discipline entrenched and the like. And I was able to tell them that the discipline starts with you first. If we really want to keep Mombasa clean, it has to start with you first, the discipline of the people. In these developed countries, people do not even drop a litter. They just pick it because it's a law. But as we have laws that have enforcement procedures and the like, but you see waste being distributed across. So first and foremost, there's a lot of advocacy that is required to be done so that there's change mind and we change the culture in terms of appreciating waste. Secondly, there are counties that initially wanted to set the recycling plant, and the community was resisting. And the essence of resistance is you're bringing that near us. So they don't look at the waste in terms of resources. And if you brought a recycling plant near you, the employment that would create. And nowadays, we don't just do waste management in the old techniques that used to be. If you went to Ghana, all the recycling plants, there is not a single smell. So I think this is something that we need to do. It will not be instantaneous. It will be progressive, gradually, but eventually we will be there. Even when you come back to this conference, you can never speak about equity and inclusion without having a live conversation about waste management, climate issues, climate action, and of course resilience. For that reason, we have a side event that is dedicated for that, to see how we can have solutions that we can infuse as we even bring the private sectors in. There are people that are doing a lot of even carbon blocks out of this. Actually, a youth-led company that does a lot of collection. Wanajita taka ni mali. Taka ni mali. So waste is a resource. Makueni County, but they've actually franchised even to at the river, Machakos County and Nairobi. So they are collecting this garbage because it's not actually sufficient for the carbon blocks that they are generating. If you go to counties like Sereb, the Mount Kenya region, they are doing a lot of posts for the electricity using these waste management and the like. So there are small things that are being done as we advance. But if you look at the technology that we want to borrow from Ghana, they have a whole array of a value chain. Besides the compost manure that they produce, they have the pellets that they are doing recycling, they have the end products, they are doing plastic bags and the like. And if you look at it holistically, if you have like 5 factories that are set out of the products from waste management, then I tend to think inequalities in terms of unemployment will be a thing of the past. So there has to be mindset on how we look at waste management holistically, and we start looking at it as a gain to this country and easing the unemployment that is so high.
Okay, Fred, can I add just a bit to that? In terms of the youth, I'm thinking about the youth. I mean, in Kenya, you have about 60% of the population being youth. This is a fantastic opportunity to create a certain, should I say, career path for them. This is the green jobs that we're looking at. This is the new face of, I think, the world when it comes to creating employment. You're not just looking at employment, but green jobs. And what am I talking about? We're talking about, she talked about the compost. You get people selling compost. You get people going into agriculture because you have compost, which is much cheaper than the inorganic fertilizer. You have the youth actually going around collecting these plastics because they know when they bring it to a center, it can be sold. And you know, any youth, again, we talk about the community-led youth. If they were going into social vices, now there's a purpose for them. They can get money, day-to-day money to feed. So they move away from the social vices. So look, the benefits are numerous. We are not just looking at the economic gains, we're looking at the climate gains of it, the carbon markets that you are privileged to. And once you're doing this, you're able to actually go into the carbon markets and trade, which is another thing for the government to look at. So, look, we can go on about it. It's fantastic.
Indeed, we can go on and on. Very interesting conversations here. And we've not even started the Devolution conference yet. It's going to kick off tomorrow. So these are the kind of conversations we'll be having. Let's slow down a bit, take a short break. We'll be back to continue this conversation. You're watching Morning Cafe a day before the Devolution Conference 2025 kicks off in Homabay County.
Thank you very much.
Discover. The world. How it was. How it is. How it will be. Around you. Discover the world around you with us.
This Monday on Mint, avoid being scammed when purchasing land in Kenya. Get insights on how to protect your most valuable asset. We meet Solo Wamashimo, Nairobi's personal concierge who sells convenience amidst the chaos of Gikomba Market. And on Boss Moves, a makeup artist turns his passion into owning his own academy and working on global film productions. Mint, this Monday, 7:30 p.m. on TV 47, the home of breaking news and untold stories.
The 9th edition of the Devolution Conference, the second biennial edition. And I'm still here with Mary Muiti, the CEO, Council of Governors, the main organizers of this event, and one of the partners, Drusilla Villas Gidiglo, as in charge of business development and strategy at Jospong. And we're talking about a very interesting conversation about waste management and how it creates a lot of employment. But the challenge in Kenya is that the youth who make up the biggest part of
Yeah.
our population are very slow to this conversation. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering, how did you, or how was the conversation managed in other jurisdictions in Ghana and probably Nigeria?
Okay, so I'll say that we realized that the youth was very key in driving the solution. So we created some cooperatives or associations for them. We have an association in Ghana. It's actually not for just POM, but we work with them closely. It's called the Environment Service Provider Association. Within that Service Provider Association is the Youth Association, or what we call the Informal Sector Association in there. They are the ones who ride the tricycles. We use a lot of tricycles because we know the fabric of the country. Not everywhere is well developed. There are very narrow areas. There are places where you cannot take trucks or skips or compaction trucks. So we trained these youth. We gave them tricycles, and it was a way of creating some should I say, some ripple effect from the sensitization of the youth in going around and collecting the rubbish and bringing them to the designated point. You know, most people, because they don't have anywhere to dump them, they'll dump them by the roadside or in the river. So we had to train them in terms of putting them in a cooperative association, training them, giving them the basic PPEs, and collaborating with government. I must say we've been able to do this with the government. I cannot speak without speaking about the government of Ghana, led by His Excellency John Dramani Mahama. And we work with all factions of the government. We work with the previous government, now we're working with the new government, which is another thing when it comes to waste. It cuts across all the political fabric, so it's a really good thing. So that's how we've been doing that. We are using the local government, Ministry of Local Government and Religious Affairs, and we're going down to the grassroots to talk to them. So that's what we've been able to do.
Yeah, that's a problem in Kenya, that government bureaucracy, and it cuts on all levels, national, county level, that when it comes to communication, you must agree, they've not done their best. And such conversations probably is where you need the private sector to come in, because government does not communicate very well in such conversations. And how do we have a proper structure on how to engage the private sector, especially from the county level?
Okay, thank you very much. May I first begin by saying, looking at this year's Devolution Conference theme, there can never be any discussion in terms of waste management and, of course, the circular economy without the youth. Yeah. The youth of this country, statistically, is actually 70% of our population is youth below 30 years. And for that reason, if we really want to revitalize and reinvigorate these economic gains, we must have the youth at the center of this. And looking and borrowing from the practices that we saw in Ghana, it is extremely so structured that if we borrowed that model, it would actually work for us. But back now to publicity and, of course, communication to the public. Counties have established functional units from the highest level to the lowest, and the lowest is the village administrators. And for that reason, if we were to use the structures that have been established for the county governments, we already have a platform on how to engage the youth. The only thing that we need to do is coin and ensure that we engage the youth in this conversation so that they see value in waste management, so that they see there is no waste management without themselves, and they see, because the youth of this country and across, they don't need stories nowadays. They need tangible things. If you tell a youth that if I provide you with a tricycle, you go around the estates and you go around to the villages and collect waste, whatever you collect, your effort is what is going to earn you. I can confirm to you, all the youth of this country will. But there has to be an enabling environment, and what we said, government must be involved, because there will be no private sector conversation without the involvement of the government. And that's why we're saying, at least if we went live with Mombasa County, was in Gishu, Kisumu, at least so that there is that engagement, I tend to believe that this solution in terms of waste management would provide not less than 50% of employment for the youth.
I'm more concerned about the way county governments are engaging the private sector, because, yes, the national government may have structures to do that. It's only 12 years into devolution, and probably county governments are still grappling with dependence on the national government for disbursement of resources and how to engage or attract resources from other sectors, especially the private sector.
12 years. If we fully depended on the exchequer releases, counties would not have done the transformative change that you see. It is actually because of the development partners and the private sector that have enabled so many programs in the counties. For that reason, there is already a framework of engagement. And remember, the Constitution has given us the autonomy in terms of managing your county. The counties are distinct but collaborative and interdependent. And for that reason, counties have their full mandate to engage with whoever that they want to engage to. And that's why Mombasa County, Kisumu, Uasin Gishu is able to engage Joswong directly, because they have the enabling legislation that gives them the autonomy. So what do I want to say? There has been robust engagement with the private sector, with the counties, and I want to confirm that the successes that we see is not out of what the government has given. And Fred, this country needs to appreciate that whatever goes to the county governments out of the national raised revenue is just a partly 10.4%. And out of the 10.4%, 7.4 goes directly to personal emoluments. So what is left for development in all the 14 devolved sectors is actually partly 7.6. And for that reason, without the private engagement to offer some and augment these meager resources that come to the counties, then counties will not be the economic platforms that spark growth in this country. So there is already an enabling platform that private sector engaged. Coming to the waste management, I said again, we need to appreciate where we are right now in terms of looking at waste management as a resource and as an economic gain, so that we entice the private sector with enabling environment, giving them rebates and free taxes, the enabling environment in terms of taxes and the like, and of course the ease of doing business with the government. And I think this is where we need to get to, because one of the things that is the greatest hindrance in this country in terms of private engagement is multiplicity of taxes in this country. So counties must be able to collaborate and ensure that they ease the cross-border taxes and the like, so that they can be able to attract the private sector. It's a two-way traffic. Yes. Government must ease these taxes, and then the private sector brings in money. Right. So I think these are conversations that are alive. We started a moat agency in terms of evaluating the numerous taxes that there are in this country. And the last meeting that we went to, that was hosted by the private, PCS, the cabinet secretary, the prime cabinet secretary, we were shocked by the statistics from KEPSA and CAM, that for each and every business that is set in this country, 45% goes to taxes. Wow. So as a country, we are not doing very well in providing an enabling environment for the private sector to thrive. So this is a time that conversations need to go in, and that's why we say this year's conference, we do not want government speaking to the people. Let people speak to government in terms of what they feel, in terms of why they are not, the businesses are not thriving in this country, so that we can see now from, and we can hear from the doers and of course the duty bearers on the pain that they are going through, so that now we can take a policy maybe from the national government and the county government on easing of these taxes and levies for purposes of having a good environment to drive the private sector.
And probably, Drusilla, because I hear you mention some of the counties that have been quick to take up these programs. What probably is a problem with the others? Why the slow uptake of this? Is there a challenge? And if you were to talk to them, what would you want them to change so that probably they're more receptive to these ideas?
I don't think it's a problem per se. Everybody has a different way of responding to change. This is change, that is change management, and also making sure that the county is ready, infrastructural wise. You need land to set it up, so maybe they're getting ready, and we're ready for them in a county. We're hoping that we'll meet some of the governors during the Devolution conference, so we'll be able to interact with them and get some headway with that. But I wanted to add something quite different from what you're talking about. You see, the waste management is a multifaceted should I say solution. So you will need different functions. You need the agriculture function, or in terms of governance, you need the industries, because when you're done with compost, you need an off-taker to take the compost. So even in the county, you need everybody to be on board before you actually drive it. When you start the compost and it's ready and it's mature, you need somebody who takes it up and uses it when it comes to agriculture. When you get the steel and the aluminium cans, you need the aluminium industries here and the steel industries to take it on board and use it. You need the plastic industry as well. So I believe the counties are also setting up in terms of infrastructure, multifaceted infrastructure, before they come on board. So I would believe that's what they're doing.
Right. Yeah. And now let's talk about the mechanics of this conference. Towards my right-hand side, we have the main theatre auditorium, if I may call it that. I can see a number of tents on the other side. You talked about side engagements, and what exactly are we looking forward to, probably in as far as how the agenda will be managed, from the main discussions to probably side discussions?
Thank you very much. And of course, drawing from the conference theme and the sub-theme, we thought that the only way to generate rich conversations is by mounting side events that are partner-led. And with the flow of the program for these 3 days, we thought that we needed to structure the conversation so that the resolutions are a little bit synchronized and, of course, geared towards achieving equity, inclusion, and social justice. So the first day, we will be dealing with issues of good governance with a tweak of equity, inclusion, and social justice. In terms of good governance, what is it that we are looking out for? And we have 15 side events that will be mounted and implemented that day, 15 of them, all of them on day one, all of them speaking about good governance with a tweak of public participation. What is it that the public needs to know, and how do we ensure that public participation is more inclusive, is more tentative, and drives the needs and the aspirations of Kenyans so that they inform the policy decisions, they inform the project management in terms of conceiving the projects that are aligned to the needs of the community, and of course ensuring that the budgeting that is there that comes out then has the tweak of the public. Then the other thing that we are looking out for is citizen engagement. How adequately have we been able to engage citizens in issues of good governance? How do they feel part of the governance? Do they feel partly, and included in whatever decisions that are made, so that we generate now conversations on how we can better engage with the public and meaningful engagement, not just for purposes of ticking the box. We realize that most of the laws that are flopped in this country is actually one main lack of tentative public participation. So we would want them to tell us how do we govern in that essence. And lastly, in terms of good governance, is how can we have a responsive government that is accountable, that is, resources are distributed fairly, and that they're responsive to the needs of the public. Second day, we will be dealing with issues of human rights and social justice. You realize that for the last 2 years, we have had an unrest in this country. And the reason for this unrest is that the youth, the marginalized, and the people living with disability feel that they're not part of the running of the government, and their voices are not heard. So we asked ourselves, then how do we ensure that we have human rights and social justice in the tweak of equity, inclusion, and social justice? And we want to look at the extent to which social rights are respected in this country, political rights are respected in this country, and I want to confirm that rights are not for the public. Even government have actually their rights. Then how do we ensure that there's even that political right, economic rights of the citizens? How do we ensure they're advanced? And how do we ensure there's inclusion across all the sectors when you're making decisions, when you're distributing resources, when you're talking about waste management? How do we ensure the youths and the voices of the masses are heard? And even in distribution of employment in this country, how do we ensure there is inclusivity and we carry everybody in terms of their rights and respecting the right of the public? The third day, we will be doing a very good, advancing a very good conversation on financing equity and inclusion. Financing is actually the key component in terms of ensuring that resources are fairly distributed across this country. The inequities and the economic disparities that are evidenced in this country right now, how do we ensure that the duty bearers, the National Assembly, because they have the power of the past, how do we ensure that they distribute resources favorably, equitably across all the centers of this country, so that a person in Lodwar feels just the same way a person in Nairobi feels? And how do we ensure that the marginalized communities are lifted in terms of ensuring that resources are distributed equitably? And when I say equitably, it's not half-half. Equity is ensuring that you look at the needs of the community. Those that are left behind, you allocate more resources and equitably so that we can be able to do this. And in terms of the financing equity and inclusion, then how do we put leaders to account for each and every coin that is disbursed to them for purposes of ensuring that we guarantee economic growth and spur growth of this country holistically? So that is mainly the structure of this year's conference and the discussions. And
this discussion will be in the main tent as well as the side engagements as well for all the 3 days.
Every day we have the main plenum that forms the basis for the side events. So every day from 8:30 to 10:30 we'll have the main plenum tweaked to address the issues of good governance the first day. And out of these, the main plenum, then the other 15 side events will be able actually to speak to the issues that will be raised in that. So that way, every day will generate very good resolutions that will enable us to implement the people's voices and the needs moving forward for the next 2 years.
And all this is going to contribute to a final communication at the end? Probably.
Yes, after the conference, one of the deliverables is we have a very rich communique that will be read to this country, the public, and they will put us to task for the next 2 years in terms of ensuring that we implement the resolutions that they told us. And one of the things that we do immediately after a devolution conference is we call all the stakeholders on the table. We read to them all the resolutions, and we assign responsibilities to the duty bearers that are supposed to advance and implement each resolution. We keep track because we have a very vibrant M&E section at the Council of Governors, and I want to confirm, Fred, the last resolutions that were derived from Eldoret was in Gishu. All of them have been implemented fully by various stakeholders and partners.
I will come back to that because there are issues around the devolving of certain functions from the national government that people are still complaining about. But before that, Drusilla, so through the next 3 days, how do we expect Jospong to be engaging in this conference? Are you going to be running probably any of the side events or any of those discussions?
Okay. So again, we're most honored to be part of the Devolution Conference. We've been given a speaking slot. Our Executive Chairman, Dr. Joseph Siang Ijapong, has been given a speaking slot on the first day. So he will be delivering a keynote address or one of the keynote addresses. Aside that, we have the side events that we're collaborating in. We have resource persons who can join some of the conversations. In our pavilion, we have a pavilion next to the COG, and in there we're also going to have some short side events as well that is skewed towards what we do, showing the videos, showing, having presentation, having a fireside talk on ICT, for instance, and waste ICT. You know, Jospong is not just about waste. We have about 60 companies in 14 sectors, so we'll be expanding because this is about devolution, it's not just about waste. So we'll be showcasing the other aspects of Jospong in our pavilion. So we're inviting everybody to the pavilion. It's right next to the COG, so we'll look forward to seeing people there. But we will be involved in the side events as well. We've targeted a few, so yeah, we look forward to that.
Probably the main discussion for the side events, what do we look forward to?
For Jospong or with the side event with Kenya. With us, as I said, ICT is a major, technology is one of it. Youth is very major. We have a few of the youth resource persons in our midst. We're going to talk about the impact on youth in Ghana, not just in waste, but every aspect of it. We have one gentleman here who actually won a Millennium Award, which is the award for the Ashanti Kingdom, which is very impactful when it comes to youth sensitization and youth empowerment. So we're going to ask him. We're also going to have a discussion with our Executive Chairman on his road right to Kenya, how he's been able to reach where he is. It's a personal discussion. I would invite you to come and listen to him. He's a fantastic person to listen to, very down to earth, very humble. So it'll be good for people to come and listen to that.
Definitely, we'll be listening to those conversations. Now, let's come back and discuss the future of devolution, because 12 years on, and we've had all these promises. Every time we attend the devolution conference, of course, we have the president and his deputy come to either open or close the event, and they make promises that the national government will do this. Probably ensure that most of those services that were yet to be devolved are devolved. But we're still seeing a lot of challenges, and there's this expression that the service will follow, the function will follow the money, or the money will follow the function. Yes. And so where are we in as far as getting all devolved services to the county?
May I first begin by saying devolution affects every person, and there's this narrative that needs to be demystified in the heads of every person in this country, that devolution is about governors and the people that work there. That's a wrong perception. Devolution affects each and every person in this country, and if we really want to talk about economic and real economic growth, we can never talk about economic growth without sparing the subnational governments. Growth can only be realized if the subnational governments or county governments are well resourced, because these are the people that have these are the institutions of the government that are the contact people, the real masses, the Wanjiku, the Onyango, the Otieno on the ground. And for that reason, we can't speak about economic growth at the center. Growth happens at the county. And that's why the responsibility of ensuring that devolution works is the responsibility of each and every person. Mostly, and more importantly, to the head of this country, the head of a state. If you really want to see that development, ensure that the functional governments are working. In terms of resources, I want to say one of the things that has really been the most undoing for county governments is the little resources that are being disbursed to the counties. The Constitution gave us a very progressive discussions where they realized that counties are supposed to be distinct but interdependent. This distinctness has already been defined in the Constitution on Schedule 4. The Schedule 4 is very clear on the functions of the national government and the county governments. 14 devolved functions are fully devolved, and these sectors are the most critical sectors: health, agriculture, water, environment, early learning, vocational training centers, urban, trade, and the like. But if you look at it holistically, the resources that go to this country, and I just want to give a synopsis of what there is this year. We are told that from the National Treasury that the budget for these years is 4.2 trillion budget. And out of these 4.2 trillion, what has gone to the counties is partly 10.4% again. Now, if you look at it, the resources are not commensurate to the functions that the counties have. And for us to have a candid conversation on how devolution works, we can't have conversation without resources. And 13 years into doing devolution, the Constitution envisioned that by now all the functions that are delineated in the 4th schedule must have been devolved. But what we see is, of course, hoarding and, of course, clawback on a daily basis for purposes of resources. If you have functions, you know you hold the resources. But the president did give a commitment last year beginning that is going to ensure that all functions that pertains to the county governments are devolved. And true to his word, on the 16th of December 2024, functions were devolved to county governments. But the sad story right now on the tweak of the county governments is those functions that have been devolved. If you look at the current budgeting, all those functions attract financing at the national government. There is no costing that has been done for those functions, and attendance resources have not followed the functions. So the county is in a dilemma. We have functions with us, but the money is at the center. So we cannot have a genuine conversation without that. Devolving and transferring of functions must have an absolute accompaniment of those resources down there if you're really genuine with one another. And of course, in terms of even allocation to the county governments, the PFM envisions that the last audited books of account are the basis, the numbers that will determine the amounts that to be disbursed in the counties. Right now, the basis upon which this division of revenue was shared was based on audited accounts for 2021-22. Wow. 4 years down the line. Are we static in terms of
despite the fact
growth?
that the national budget
is growing every day. So what was disbursed for us is actually based on the last audited books of account, which is 2021-2022. But if you look at the growth of the budget every year, we are told that it grows by 5.2%. So there has to be a commensurate portion that goes to the counties in terms of this, and that's why we are saying the PFM Act needs to be amended if we really need to have a candid conversation about resourcing the county governments. We cannot have resources shared 4 years back. That cannot be equity. And if we really have to advance equity conversation and financing for equity, that conversation needs to be live in these conference discussions.
All right. And we're due for a short break in a short while, but before that, as from a perspective, from an outsider's perspective, just watching the devolution story, the devolution journey in Kenya pan out. Yes, of course, there are hits and misses here and there, but what do you think has been the main challenge in as far as ensuring that devolution in Kenya works, from your perspective?
That's a very complex question.
What are the problems you can point out and say, here, you're doing it right, here, probably you need to tweak? Probably what will form the basis of a lot of the conversations here.
I would say that, to be honest, I think that Kenya started well. And let me talk from the waste perspective, because that's why mainly why we're here. Again, I talked about the single-use plastic-free. That is a great initiative. We haven't been able to even achieve that in Ghana. So you've reached you've advanced in certain areas. I believe as again getting the culture of not looking at waste as waste, but looking at it as a resource. I think that's where you haven't gotten to. Making sure your landfills are engineered landfills, making sure that the onward off-taking agreements are signed on when it comes to the waste processing. Waste processing, we keep talking about waste processing, it's not just solid. You have liquid waste, which is fecal and sewage. You have medical waste, which is something in Africa that is almost unheard of. I would say Ghana is one of the few countries that has actually started medical waste treatment. There's industrial waste, there's hazardous waste. So look, we can talk about it. Give me like 2 hours, I can talk about waste here. But I think that looking at it in a holistic perspective, looking at it as a sustainability perspective, that is